is the OV8, the Raven team. So officially now we are opening up the second day of flying. And welcome to the International Ayr Show Festival of Flight 2023. So Raven in the lead and the Gazelles slotted in behind, smoke on. Get your photos now because they won't be doing that many passes in that configuration. And what you're seeing here are the cream of British displays, but both of them are private display teams. Both of them will be having civilian and military pilots. Raven team, for instance, have an international rugby player as one of their pilots. And I'll go through the Gazelle team later on when they come back. So they're going to do, I've just been told by the flight display director, Les, that they're going to do a complete orbit, come back. Lots of boats there, I've just noticed. Wow, that's a good way of seeing the show. So, as I said earlier, this is not ideal for flying displays because we have what's called an on-crowd wind. So you'll see a lot of the teams will be extending outwards because they don't want to blow past the display markers that we've seen there. And it's gusting as well, so but it's still well within limits. So get your cameras ready. They're going to do a straight in approach, slightly off wind. Team Raven braking to the right, and the Gazelle helicopters braking to your left. Awesome, what an opener. Now the Gazelles will be heading off. They're going to depart back to Prestwick, and Team Raven are going to then hook around to the left. They're going to climb to height, and I'll start telling you a little bit about that team. As I said, they're not all military pilots that will be displaying here today, and this team is the epitome of that. We have Simon Sid Sherrill, there been called him Sid Sherrill. He's leading, it's his 10th season as a display pilot. He's a former Royal Air Force jet pilot with about 5,500 hours. Done multiple tours on the Tornado, as well as the QFI tours on the Hawk, the Grob Shooter with the University Air Squadrons, and the Grob 20s. So a very seasoned pilot, and he's one of the most experienced military jet pilots on the civilian list. So here they come, running in from the right. And watch as the aircraft pitch up. The aircraft are flying the OV8s on a kit-built aircraft, so they're all pretty much specialized, and as you can see, straight up into what we call the Delta Loop. And these aircraft, although they look very similar from the interior, there is some subtle differences inside, especially with the avionics layouts, but basically they'll have the same power plant, the Lycoming, and some little fiddles inside, so they basically build it the way they want it. And now watch as they come back from the 45. They're going to do what's called a Delta underside pass. Now, like the red arrows, they'll stick together for some of the display, but then they'll break off and they'll have what's called a synchro pair doing their specialized. So back in at 45 degrees. Cloud center. You see what I mean by that smoke? Now you can see how the smoke is blown on towards the cloud line. It'll be the same for the aircraft. So they're fighting that on-crowd wind. And a very nice underside pass. Now 4 and 5 are going to break out. There they go. So we'll introduce number 4, which I said is Jared Williams. He's the ex-rugby player. Number 5 is Russ Heatwell. Russ is his second season with the team. Coming into an offset loop. Great flying. Look at that now, like mirror images of each other. This is where the smoke comes in handy, not just for us to be able to see, but they can see each other as well. So when you have a pair like that and they're doing some formation flying, being able to see where your partner is obviously vital. So smoke, while it's good for us, it's also good for the team. Now coming in from the right, it's the rest of the pair. So the Raven team, 1, 3 and 6. Up up into the top, into a barrel roll. Very nice, tight diamond formation. It's hard to believe it, but the pilot, the lead pilot in the lead is flying his routine, and on the right and the left of him, the trading pilots, they're actually looking mainly at where the team leader is going. So wherever he goes, the rest of them go. So back come number 4 and 5. Rolling up over the top. Another barrel roll. And Russ Eatwell at the back there, tucked right underneath Gerard. Now he changes position as he comes out of that loop. Look to your left. Here come the rest of the team. Rolling around a barrel roll, while in big formation, number 2 is barrel rolling around in a maneuver they call the Cyclone. So watch now as teams members 4 and 5, they're going to chase down that main formation and rejoin into Delta formation. And then they'll come back in on what we call the B axis for what's called a 3-2-1 break. Good photo opportunity coming up. So the aircraft, as I said, is basically a kit aircraft, or V8. You can build up to your specifications, but it's a very, very good touring aircraft. 2-seater. You can cruise along very happily at 120, 140 knots. And it's got a very decent range. So the aircraft all back now in formation. So as I said, get ready for the 3-2-1 break. It's going to become obvious why it's called that in a minute. So get your cameras ready. So they pitch the aircraft up. 3, 2, 1, and there's your break. So 4 and 5 were broken out there, the formation onto the 90, and a vertical roll away for what we're going to see is half Cubans. Opposition half Cubans from them, and then get ready for the close pass. Now next weight turn out and heading away, so keep your eye out because coming back in, number 6 is going to perform a stall turn, and at the controls of number 6 is Mark Southern. And Mark, very accomplished pilot, as most of them are. By trade, he's an airline pilot. He's got 30 years flying Boeing and Airbus. So look to your left, coming back in on the 45. Lights on to help us identify them. Up into the vertical. Very nice, just keeping that so tight. Look at it, it's like they're moving as one. Incredible airmanship. We're going to see 4 and 5 come back. They're going up into the vertical, to a cassette loop. And as I said, these are the only civilian aerobatic team left now in the UK. for fixed wing. Obviously we've got the Gazelles doing the helicopter, that is a civilian team as well. So now look straight ahead into crowd center. Get ready for a cross break, there they go. Filling up the sky. So coming from your left, Ford has been chased hard behind him with number 5. So Gerard Williams leading that 2-ship with Russies well behind. Both of them doing half Cuban and out the other end. Like a mirror formation. So you can see the main ship, 3's way off in the distance, straight ahead of us in crowd center. 4 and 5, they're keeping their smoke on so the other team members can keep up with them. That'll help them to join up. So watch now as they trade off that height that they had for speed. They're coming straight at us. Brake, brake, brake. Back to the right again. Smoke aiding 4 and 5 as they come back in a pair. Again, you see how they've slightly adjusted for the wind? They're slightly off center. Normally they come straight at you, but they've got like a 10-degree and up into the top. Now I don't know how well this is going to work in this weather because of the high winds, but this is your classic aerobatic heart. Don't know how long it's going to last up there with that wind, and there you go. Russ and Gerald doing a great job painting a heart in the sky. So 4 and 5 will break off to right. Look to your right now. There come the rest of the team. One, 3, all the way through as they pull up into what's called a caterpillar loop. So, pitching down, the wind blowing them, making it a little bit more difficult than they want it, but perfect. Look at that, see the gaps between the aircraft, exactly the same as when they went in to the maneuver, coming out at the other end. Now watch as all 6 Ravens reform into echelon left. They're going to be climbing into the crowd center with the smoke coming on as they perform their signature maneuver. It's called the Twizzles. So it'll be pretty obvious why the Twizzles, as each aircraft roll through the inverted and then they'll exit out on 45. So get your cameras ready. This is their signature maneuver. So yeah, there's a very big RV8, or Vans as it calls, who's a manufacturer's community. Got a good friend of mine up here, Derek, who's got his own van, RV8. Flies it a lot. It's a very popular aircraft. Easy to maintain with that Lycoming engine. It's like the Ford engine of flying. So there they go. Get your cameras ready. In echelon left formation. Smoke on. And time to twizzle. As you can see, they're all exiting out in the 45. They'll rejoin now in Delta, and the team will then descend. They're going to pitch up into Delta Quarter Clover for their final downward display, and it really is a good camera shot. It's what's called a downward bomb burst break, so it's exactly like it says. They'll all pitch the aircraft down, and then they'll all split up. It's like a flower opening. So they're going to climb up to height. They're going to trade that height for speed when they come back. First of all, they'll all join up in delta formation as they come in from a right-hand side. So cameras ready for their last major maneuver. What an opening for the show. The International Ayr Show Festival of Flight 2023. Team Raven with the downward bomb burst brake. Perfection. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Our visitors from the right, ladies and gentlemen, the BAE Systems StrikeMaster with an AI commentator.
Training and light attack aircraft that has played a significant role in military aviation since its inception. Developed by BAC, British Aircraft Corporation, the StrikeMaster was based on the Jet Provost, a successful jet trainer. Over the years, the aircraft found its way into the hands of various military forces and private operators worldwide. In this history of the StrikeMaster, we'll explore its origins, development, service, and impact on the aviation industry. Origins and development. The StrikeMaster traces its roots back to the Jet Provost, a British jet trainer introduced in the late 1950s. The Jet Provost served as the Royal Air Force's primary jet trainer for many years, but by the 1960s, it was apparent that the aircraft needed an upgrade to remain effective in the evolving military landscape. In response, BAC initiated a development program to create an improved version of the Jet Provost. The goal was to produce a more potent platform capable of not only training pilots, but also fulfilling light attack roles in support of ground forces. The initial design retained many features of the Jet Provost, including its tandem seating configuration and straight wings. However, numerous enhancements were introduced, including more powerful Rolls-Royce Viper engines and the capability to carry a variety of munitions, such as rockets, bombs, and machine guns. Introduction to service. The first prototype of the StrikeMaster, known as the Jet Provost TNK-5A, made its maiden flight in 1967. This prototype showcased the aircraft's enhanced capabilities and was well received by both military and export customers. Subsequently, the aircraft entered production, with the Mk-80 and Mk-81 models initially being delivered to the Royal Saudi Air Force RSA and the Kuwait Air Force. The StrikeMaster soon proved itself as a versatile and reliable aircraft. It was particularly adept at counterinsurgency operations, close air support, and training. The combination of training capabilities and light attack capabilities made the StrikeMaster an attractive option for air forces in various countries. Global service and upgrades. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the StrikeMaster saw widespread service across the globe. Countries like Oman, Yemen, Ecuador, New Zealand, Singapore, and Zimbabwe, among others, acquired the aircraft to bolster their military capabilities. Many of these countries employed the StrikeMaster in active combat roles, participating in regional conflicts and supporting ground forces.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first AI commentate on an aircraft at an air show anywhere in the world. I would be very interested to know what you think of that. Would you rather listen to that guy? He's obviously in his mid-20s, comes from Surrey, I would think, with that accent. But it's not, he's completely computer generated. And I have to say a huge thanks to the guys in Ukraine, in Kiev, Rostem and his team from Respeech. They made an absolute amazing copy of that. And the text, everything in there, this aircraft was operated by the Omani Air Force. And it's a direct descendant. It's the content from ChatGPT could not have been more accurate. So that is the future. That's what STEM is about. And do go over to the STEM village and have a chat with them. I'm thankful that I've got Dr. Jeff next to me. He's the STEM expert. What did you think of that? The first AI air show commentary?
Well, I think the problem is, Joe, you've done us out of a job.
That's it, exactly. We'll all be out of a job, so this make the most of it. I'm not going to be here in 10 years, the computers are taking over. So let's concentrate now on the aircraft that we've got. The STEM is going to take a little sidestep as we watch the StrikeMaster come back, beautifully prepared. A very potent aircraft in its time, and as the AI was telling us, it was a very successful export aircraft as well, serving mainly in the Middle East. Also went down to New Zealand, and that side-by-side configuration made it an ideal attack aircraft, a light attack aircraft. So rockets, bombs could be used to strike ground targets. It had a decent range as well with the tip tanks on it, and it could loiter for a long, long time. StrikeMaster, one of the big successes, the first success of jet exports that continues throughout the day, and we're very glad to have it here today at the Ayr Show, International Festival of Flight 2023. What a beautiful sight that is. So we're going to be moving on now, and we're going to go from one AI commentator to another one, because this man is a machine. He's a computer. As the StrikeMaster comes back in, watch in the center. Get your cameras ready. That very distinctive smoke trail coming out of the Rolls-Royce Viper engine, which was uprated for this Mark 58. Nice crisp roll as well. Also in its role as an advanced jet trainer, ideal position for the pilot and the trainee pilot, because side by side is the way you want to be when you're teaching somebody how to fly these at fast speed. You want to be seeing where his hands are going, and nowadays of course nearly all trainers are tandem, so you're sitting behind them, but back in the day you wanted to be sitting beside people so you could see exactly what their settings are on the throttles and also what they're selecting on the panel. Maximum speed is approached now as he's coming in from the left for his final pass. So get your cameras ready. Ladies and gentlemen, the BAC StrikeMaster. So we had one AI, as I said, commentator now the next AI commentator, because this man is like a computer. He has all the information at his fingertips.
Great camera opportunity. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Royal Air Force 2023 Chinook display team. Having executed a pedal turn, the aircraft will now go to crowd left to reposition, and it's a great opportunity for me to introduce this year's display captain, Flight Lieutenant Jim Hobkirk. We've been giving him a bit of mick during the display season this year, so we thought we'd give him a little bit of a compliment for this display. No, sorry, we couldn't think of anything. So Flight Lieutenant Jim Hobkirk is a pilot at Odeon. He's got about 8,000 hours, 3,000 of those on the Chinook. He's one of our experienced instructors, having flown on the Gazelle, the Wessex, and of course the mighty Chinook. Jim positions the aircraft to come from crowd left to crowd right, to initiate the first of our manoeuvres, the roller coaster. The roller coaster is a sequence of nose up followed by nose down attitudes, and it throws the aircraft into some really unusual attitudes. Jim pitches the aircraft no more than 60 degrees nose up before pushing the cyclic forward to give you 60 degrees nose down, using both the energy and 9,000 shaft horsepower from the aircraft to come into the second of the noseovers. As he throws approximately 13-ton worth of aircraft into the second noseover, we understand that Jim is flying the aircraft visually, and without the benefit of a head-up display, he needs a left-hand seat to read out the numbers to ensure that he stays within the limits. In the left-hand seat today, we have Flight Lieutenant Ian Cooper. Coops would like to say hello to Dave Curry, who's in the crowd today, and someone he shared a room with in Kinloss when he was on the Nimrod. As a was-up in the Nimrod, Coops then decided to re-engage and become a pilot, joining 18 Squadron in 2018. Since joining the squadron, he's deployed on many operations in Mali and has also supported the RAF in Opshada. Let's join Coops in the cockpit now as he passes Jim through the second of the noseovers.
Point 4 to run. Ready. Enter. Now. 10. Horizon 20, 30, 40, 45, 550 feet. Pedal turn next. 400, 300, 250, 200, 100 knots, 110 knots. Good height, good speed.
Jim will now put the aircraft into the second of the pedal turns, and this will give you a unique view of the top-down plan view of the aircraft. This is unique to the Chinook, and unlike most tail rotor helicopters, it ensures that all the power goes through both of the rotor discs. Jim will now take the aircraft from crowd left to crowd right, executing a series of wing waggles. This is a great photo opportunity for all of you in the crowd. As we said before, the aircraft's first operation was the Falklands conflict in 1982, and since then it has been on many conflicts around the world. Most recently, it's supported our French colleagues in Africa and Op Nukem. However, the aircraft is probably most remembered for its use as a flying hospital in Afghanistan. During that conflict, we executed manoeuvres such as the nose-down quick stop. The nose-down quick stop was used if we saw troops on the ground last minute and brought the aircraft from around 120 knots to a standstill on a sixpence. The crew will now start a trawl from right to left. The ramp will come down and our crewman will come out to give you a big wave. Please wave back as he can see you and he has the best seat in the house. Operating the red hands today is Sergeant Steve Shaw. Steve comes from Derbyshire in the Peak District. He originally joined up as an armourer and serviced the RAF Tornado fleet before it was retired. He then decided to re-engage and become a crewman before joining the squadron in around 2017. It's also important to remember that as you see the aircraft displaying in front of you today, there's a team of engineers supporting the aircraft back at Blackpool Airport. The Django team is supported by his highly experienced team and ensure that the aircraft is fit to fly. Steve now runs to the front of the aircraft and you'll soon see the ramp go up before the aircraft enters the Gorney corkscrew. This manoeuvre was first created in Gorney Vakuf in Bosnia and it was used to clear the high-sided valleys and also created a morale-boosting spectacle for our troops on the ground. As Jim enters the top of the Gorney corkscrew, he will now turn left and execute a 500-degree descending spiralling turn. The Chinook Force hold a 365 24/7 national standby commitment. This means that we can help civil authorities anywhere within the UK to help with things like flood relief, or also recently helping on risk rescript for the COVID pandemic. Jim will now bring the aircraft towards the crowd for the run and break. Hopefully that will bring the lovely sound of blade slap to Scotland. We'll now reposition the aircraft for the next of our manoeuvres. The aircraft is supported by a team back at Royal Air Force Stadium. It's important to note that the aircraft does not fly unless air traffickers, admins and ops staff also help us to fight and fly the aircraft throughout the world. In short order, we'll be deploying to Eastern Europe to help our NATO partners in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Jim will now conduct a quick stop. This will be done at low level and keeping the aircraft at 100 to 200 feet. He'll bring the aircraft from 120 feet to a standstill. Bring the nose up as he approaches crowd centre. He'll then bring the aircraft to face you. And as it comes to the conclusion of our display, watch as we flash the landing lamp. The crewman gives you a big wave. Please give a massive wave back to the Royal Air Force 2023 Chinook display team. It's been an absolute pleasure for us to display for you at this beautiful seaside location. We'd like to thank you for your support, and we'd also like to thank you for all of our people watching on the live stream.
A lot of these specialist aviation companies have, I think it's part of Boeing now, if I'm rightly, and you can see that very distinctive paint scheme on the aircraft as well, with the orange tips on it. That is a little nod to its later life. It served in the Luftwaffe as a target towing aircraft. So those clamshell doors at the back were ideal. They could open it up and extend out the target that people could come along and take shots at with their Mauser cannons. But you don't want people taking shots at your aircraft, so you put big orange markers on it to make sure they're shooting at the target and not at you. As I said earlier, the North American Rockwell OV-10 Bronco, it's a turboprop light attack and observation aircraft. Some say it was the CIA that developed it, because they needed an aircraft that could fly over the jungles in Vietnam and just soak up all the intelligence that it could. And that was its primary purpose there. It was also used as what's called a FAC, forward air control. So it would get up above the battlefield and it would call out artillery and airstrikes as well. And because of its high wing and it has what's called a big core, so it's got a good loiter time, it could hang over the battlefield, and it has amazing visibility as well. You have two pilots on board, well, one pilot and one observer in that role, and they see tandem, one slightly higher above at the back. But it also went on to serve in Vietnam and then into the Cold War before it ended its operational roles with time in Desert Shield, which was Gulf War I. It's a big aircraft, over 40 feet wingspan and just over 44 foot long. It's high as well. When you get to see it on the ground, because it was designed to operate from rough, unprepared strips at the front and also not go into airfields, so it could land in a field. It has a very sturdy undercarriage system, so it's quite high, and you want a big undercarriage as well, because you want a big gap between the propellers and the ground when you come into land. So it's quite high. It's 15 foot in height. It has two Garrett T76 turboprops on it, and that's developing over 700 shaft horsepower as well. And there you go, you get to see that undercarriage I was talking about. You can see it's quite leggy, we call it, an aircraft that has got big long legs like a model. But that's to keep those propeller tips out and digging into the dirt when you're landing on the ground. Surface ceiling up to 30,000 feet, so clearly it's not a pressurized cabin, or you can have an oxygen system on board, and a very decent range of over 13,000 miles. Now the variant that we see here is what's called the German version, the OV-10B, and it was produced in Germany, as I said, as a target tug. 18 of these aircraft were delivered in the early 70s, and they basically had a big steel cable winch inside the fuselage, and those rear cargo doors were replaced with a big clear dome, and they just attached the target to it. It was like a big windsock. You know when you go to an airfield and they've got a windsock? Think of it something like that, and then they just extend that out about 500 to 700 meters away from the aircraft, and traditionally that was used as a target for cannon, not so much missiles and stuff like that, so for air-to-air engagement training. And following a career spanning 20 years, the Bronco was finally replaced in the Luftwaffe by the Blatt PC-9s. And they were sent to various museums, and the museums, but Tony de Bruer, who is the owner of this aircraft, managed to get his hands on one, and he is the display pilot we're seeing here. He really is the driving force behind the Bronco demo team. I've worked with Tony before out in the Middle East as well, where he did a tour with his aircraft, and he tours it all around Europe. And it's a little family. Like I said, when you see it up close, you realize how big it is inside. And he just packs everything into it, all his luggage. He had a barbecue in there, and I thought, wow, this is perfect. This is the warbird to have, because you can literally put everything in it, bring your friends and family, and off you go to an air show. He's been passionate about aviation since early boyhood, and he's also a commercial pilot with 5,000 flying hours to his credit, and clearly loves displaying this aircraft, showing the airplane off to its best advantage, and its rugged STOL performance. So a STOL aircraft memorial flight, the Spitfire. I want to make a ringtone out of that noise. That would be the perfect ringtone for your phone. That coming in is absolutely gorgeous. So this aircraft moving in from the right now. Let's just listen again to this beautiful bird engine. So Spitfire MK356 was built at Castle Bromwich. It was allocated to the newly formed 443 Hornet Squadron, which was part of the Royal Canadian Air Force at RAF Digby in March of '44. In the 60 days around D-Day, this aircraft flew 60 operational sorties. It was damaged by enemy fire on 3 occasions and suffered 3 wheels-up landings. But again, due to the fantastic engineering and skills of the Royal Air Force engineering teams, this aircraft continued to fight throughout the war. It's also a bit of a film star, because this aircraft was in the epic film Battle of Britain. In the movie it was a static airframe, and then in 1992 it underwent a complete restoration to what we see here today, the airworthy status, and that was begun by a team from St. Athens. And the refurbishment took 5 years. It was completed in 1997, and that was the first time it's been in 53 years. in '97 it joined the Battle of Britain BBMF team, and it's now painted, as you can see, in a desert camouflage scheme to represent the Spitfire Mark 9C, which was one of the Mark 9 Spitfires operated by 92 Squadron alongside the unit's Mark 5s in Tunisia. The earlier Marks of the Spitfire had canvas-covered control surfaces, so the aileron and the elevator, and the Mark 9, one of its major steps forward, it was a very simple modification, and some say should have been done right from the start. They covered the control surfaces with metal, and that made them more rigid, and that gave them a far better turning circle. I once had the pleasure of interviewing the engineer to Douglas Bader, who was flying a Mark 5 out down at Duxford, and he told me that it was Bader's idea to cover the control surfaces with metal, because they had Irish linen cover on them before, so when you were pulling hard on them, they'd deflect and bend a little. It was his idea to put metal over the control surfaces and give them a little more rigid controlling. So that's the Spitfire heading out to the right now. Fantastic display, and thank you very much for everybody from BBMF. And as the saying goes on their motto,